Hello folks, welcome to the third lesson from the P1 energy topic called non-renewable energy resources. So get yourselves a pen and paper and let's get started. First up, let's just recap on a few of the renewable energy resources. So this is energy resources that can be replenished. So look at the pictures here and decide for each of these types of renewable energy what causes the turbine to turn. Remember, the turbine spins the generator and that's how our electricity is generated. So pause the video and have a few minutes to just think about that. Okay, so here we are with our wind turbine. It's the wind that's spinning the turbine blade. With our hydroelectric dam, water is moving from the top reservoir down to a bottom reservoir. Okay, and so the moving water is spinning the turbine blade. Remember, the turbine blade will spin the coil of wire inside a magnetic field or the other way round. Spinning a magnet inside a coil of wire, either of those methods generate electricity. At night, remember, they usually pump the water from the lower reservoir back up to the top reservoir, and that's because not many people are using the electricity at night, and so therefore they can buy the electricity back from the electricity board at a cheaper price and just move the water back up so it's ready to go the next day. Another benefit of a hydroelectric dam, by the way, is the fact that the start-up time, when the system is primed and ready to go, it can start up in about 11 seconds. So really quick to start supplying the electricity. In a geothermal plant, we're using hot steam to spin the turbine blades. You can see a cutout there. And in the tidal power plant, we're using the tidal current as it moves in and out with the ebb and flow of the tide to spin those turbine blades. Okay, so that's a quick recap on renewables. And remember, these are nice exercises to do. You can get these recap questions. So I'm going to put them up on the next slide and then you can take a while to jot them down. Key term today is that a non-renewable energy resource is one that cannot be replenished, and that's just a posh word for replaced. Okay, not in our lifetime anyway. Okay, so here we go. Here's the questions. So if you pause the video, make a note of those questions and then have a go. One is from year 8, 2 questions are from 2 lessons ago, and then these 3 questions are from last lesson. Off you go. Okay, and I'll pop up the answers so you can have a look through those. Okay, so a lot of the questions in the exam would be over things like identify, that means just list if you like, or name, an advantage of wind power over solar panel power. So make sure you read these really carefully and make sure you're picking up the right energy resources to compare. So, okay, a wind turbine can produce electricity at night whilst solar cells can't. Okay, so that's an advantage. All right, an advantage of solar power over geothermal. Make sure you're comparing the right ones. So solar cells can operate in many parts of the world, while geothermal plants are restricted to fewer locations where hot rocks lie near enough to the surface. And then number 3, which renewable energy resource is often described as carbon neutral, and that would be a biofuel. Often described as it, but not necessarily completely carbon neutral, because we have to think about the transport costs and the fertiliser costs and all that sort of thing involved in whatever it is you're growing. All right, then I'll leave you to look through the rest of those and mark them yourselves. So this is what we're going to be doing today. We're going to be looking at how our non-renewable resources are used to generate electricity, and then looking at 2 particular issues. The reliability, just like we did in the last lesson for the renewables, but also the environmental impact. Okay, all right, and don't forget your word list, because your word list is really important. Okay, all right. So using the words correctly in the exam makes it much easier for an examiner to award you marks, and that's what we're looking for. All right, so we've seen this slide before. These are actually in the right order now. So this is just recapping on what a fossil fuel, let's just stick with that for a moment, what a fossil fuel power station does to generate electricity. So we've got to heat the water, spin the turbine blades with our steam, which has come from our heated water. So we've burnt our fuel to get the heated water in this case. The turbine then turns the magnet inside of the coil of wire. This is our generator, so it's generating our electricity. And the transformer changes the voltage here. This is a step-up transformer, increases the voltage so that the electricity can be transmitted to the users with wasting the least energy. Now, in a nuclear power station, it's nuclear fission of a radioactive ore that releases the energy which heats the water and produces steam. So they look different and they produce different. The fossil fuel power stations produce polluting gases which the nuclear power station doesn't, but effectively from this point onwards they're generating electricity in the same way. Okay, so let's have a quick recap of fuels. You can pause the video here if you like. Fuel is something that is used to provide heat or power, often by burning. So which is the odd one out here? Have a look at those for a while and look at the odd one out. And then the second question is, which fuel is missing? Okay, pause the video. Okay, so oil and coal and the natural gas that comes out of the Bunsen burners, these are called fossil fuels because of the way that they were formed. They were formed from things that were once alive, and then they've died, and over the millions of years we've ended up with these fuels as a result of the preservation. Wood, on the other hand, is a biofuel because we can replenish that in our lifetime because we can just grow more wood. So oil, coal, natural gas are fossil fuels, okay, and they cannot be replenished. The fuel that's missing is our nuclear fuel, so plutonium and uranium, and eventually we will run out of these in the ground. We dig them out as ores, and we will run out of those eventually, so they are listed as a non-renewable energy resource. Okay, so it's time to watch a video. We're thinking about the environmental problems associated here, so we're thinking about the environmental impact of using fossil fuel power stations, as well as their reliability. Okay, so you're going to have to pause the video and go on to the other PowerPoint, which will give you access to these links, and you can just click on them. Okay, off you go. So having watched the video, this should be an easy slide for you to copy down and fill in the answers, or if somebody's been kind enough to print you out the sheets, they were attached to this lesson and you can just fill in the missing words. You'll need to pause the video while you do this and have a go. Okay, so here are the answers. I won't go through them all, but mainly to say the main problem we're concerned with at the moment is carbon dioxide, okay, because it's a greenhouse gas and that helps cause global warming. Okay, now the other thing down here is that our nuclear power stations do not produce polluting gases. So if you can't remember, it's carbon dioxide is the main gas that is the problem. Just refer to things as polluting gases. But nuclear power stations don't do that because they're not burning the fossil fuels. However, they do produce radioactive waste, and that could be harmful if it's not stored correctly or treated correctly. Okay, so that's the thing to bear in mind there. All right then, so for our non-renewable energy resources and the fossil fuels and power, nuclear power, can you think of a list of advantages and a list of disadvantages? Pause the video and have a go at that. Okay, so did you get these? These would be the sort of things that we would need to think about. So reliability, because at the moment we do have coal, oil, gas and nuclear fuel, we do say that this is a very reliable resource. We know we're going to run out of it eventually, but it means that our power stations can run reliably so long as you've got an adequate supply of this fuel. Okay. Now nuclear doesn't produce polluting gases. Fuel is relatively cheap, I suppose you could say, in its extraction cost, and everything's taken into account. All right, so it's good for basic demand. If it's reliable, it's there in the background, always running along, although we do want to use less of it in the future for these reasons. So the main one being that burning fossil fuels produces carbon dioxide, which causes global warming, and secondarily sulfur dioxide, which causes acid rain. Nuclear power stations produce dangerous waste, which must be stored safely. And this is all non-renewable. We can't replenish it, so it's non-replenishable. Okay, they're going to run out one day. Right, now the next exercise is a really good way of seeing if you can apply these terms. So there are 2 sheets on the next 2 slides, and these might have been printed out for you. If not, what I'd like you to do right now is take a copy of these words here, okay, and you're going to use these words to best match what is in the on the next slide. You're going to match to the boxes, okay? So pause the video and write those words down. And then what you're going to do is you're going to use those words and apply them to this slide here. So for example, which one of the resources that you wrote down just now could you put in this box for renewables? Which one would you put in unreliable? Which ones cost very little to run once they've been set up? Built, but maybe they cost to build in the first place, etc. So make a copy of this slide in your book, and then off you go, have a go at matching the words in. Now there's one more set of these, so I'm going to flick onto that now, so you can pause the video if you need to copy those ones down. And here's the second set. Okay, so could result in major nuclear catastrophes. What one of those from the slide back here would apply to that one? Bit of a giveaway on that one there. Okay, have a go at those, and then I'll put up the answers to these, and then you can try a few questions. Alright, so going back to the first sheet, then I'll pause it here. Do you agree with the things we've got up here? They're colour-coded for the non-renewables in red and the renewables in green. Pause the video and you can mark that one. And here we go, here's some more. Okay, so pause the video if you need to so that you can mark it, and let's move on to a couple of questions. So I've got a foundation and a higher question coming up. Pause the video, have a look at these questions and have a go. And here we go with our mark scheme there, so there's 4 marks in total. Okay. And here we've got some higher questions, and the answer is on this sheet, so I probably should have removed that first of all. Perhaps we can cover up the bottom half and you can have a go at it. Now this one's interesting because it says about global energy usage, and then it says what the global population is. So to get the energy use per person per day, it's quite simple. You're just per year, sorry, just dividing this top figure by 6,000 million people. Then to turn it into per second, you have to think, well, there's 365 days in a year, 24 hours in a day, and then 60 seconds in a minute and 60 seconds in an hour. So you've got to times that 24 hours by this number of seconds here, and that will give you the number of joules per second for the energy used per person. Right, so have we achieved what we set out to do? I think we have. There's some question sheets that are assigned to this lesson as well, so you can have a go at those. All right, thank you very much.